Can you freeze your leftover paste? I have been asked this question hundreds of times in the last few weeks, and that is not an exaggeration. Literally go under any of the videos I've done recently on paste fishing and there'll be a question underneath it: can you freeze your leftover paste? I've got to be honest, I've never frozen paste. I either throw it away or obviously use what I've mixed up. But it's a valid question. Everything's so expensive these days, I can totally get why you would want to freeze your leftover bait. So what we shall do, we'll get this bagged up, whack it in the freezer and find out if it affects the consistency. So loads of you have asked about freezing paste, and I've never done it. I've frozen my cheese paste on chub fishing. In fact, I've bung it in and out of the freezer hundreds of times in the winter. But yesterday I went on a match at Barbie Banks, and the fishing was really funny, and I went with all my paste mixed up. I got my red and my brown, and it just didn't happen. I never caught anything on paste, not a single bite. And I've had that a little bit recently. Certain venues, Barbie particularly, I took paste the other week and it did work, but I ended up with loads spare. And I've noticed a few venues where they're not quite responding to paste just yet. So I've got all this bait left over. I've got some lovely red stuff. Look, I never even put a piece on yesterday. And then I've got my standard brown stuff. I don't want to throw it away. I mean, it still smells good. The consistency is good. If anything, it's maybe slightly pongy, but I don't actually mind that. Smells a little bit stronger than it did when I first mixed it, because obviously it's been in my bag all day yesterday. But to be honest, the texture's great, the colour's great, and it's nice and smooth. Look at that, it's lovely paste, it looks great. So the only thing I'm worried about with my paste is that it might lose its consistency once it's been in the freezer. Steve Gregory, who I mentioned on the Miracle Baits paste video, he actually sent me an email. I don't know if it was an automated one after he'd ordered or what, but it had like mixing instructions for Miracle Paste. And one of the things he said on the email was, it's at its best when it goes mouldy, so get the mould off it. Interesting. And he also says you can freeze it. So if someone like that is recommending you can freeze it, then there's no reason why I can't do it as well. So what I've done, I've got some different, obviously freezer bags. I'll get this batched up now. In hindsight, I mean, I use a lot of paste when I'm fishing because I put such big pieces on. So like a tub like that of red, that will last me my last 2 hours of margin fishing. So it may seem like I've got a lot here, but I will get through it in a proper paste match. Like if I go to Shearsby, I'll definitely use all of that. So I have to mix up that amount of paste because I get through it. So it would be a shame to waste it, like I said. So let's get it bagged up. We'll get it in the freezer and we'll come back in a couple of days' time when we're next paste fishing. We'll get it out, we'll defrost it, and we'll see if there's been any change at all. I'm just going to take a moment to interrupt the video. A whopping 72% of you guys watching haven't subscribed to my channel yet. Now, it's completely free to do so, and I'm one of the very few anglers left on YouTube that does the whole library completely free. There's no membership section, there's no subscription service where you've got to pay for it or anything like that. All my content is totally free. So all I ask is that you give my channel a subscribe. It's completely free to do so, and it ensures that you never miss another video, and it ensures that more people get to see my videos in the long run too. So I hope you continue enjoying this video, but do me a favour, press that subscribe button. Okay, so we're back a few days later, and I actually went fishing yesterday. I took the bait out of the freezer. It was in the freezer for a couple of days. Took the bait out of the freezer and I went fishing yesterday, and I caught loads of fish on paste. I actually just used a little tiny bit, so I've still got loads left. I was fishing pea paste yesterday for skimmers, so I only used a tiny bit, but I've got a little bit of a report on the bait as I took it out of the freezer. Now, as you saw in that opening bit, I stored my bait in. I didn't take the red one out, that's in the freezer still for another session, but I took this one out because that's what I was going to use for the skimmers. Now, I took it out, and I've got to say, I was actually quite impressed once it thawed out. It had a slight different smell to it, but nothing that I would be too worried about. It definitely didn't smell as fresh as it did when it went in. I'm not sure why that is, but it actually it smelled more than fine. It didn't smell sour or anything. If anything, it smelled a bit stronger, which might be a good thing. One thing I was worried about was it losing its tackiness, its binding power. Whenever I've frozen ground bait in the past and then tried to make a ball with it, I've always found it kind of loses its tackiness, which can be a good thing. I've done it with pellets before. When I used to use a pellet feeder, I had a certain batch of pellets a few years ago that when I was using pellet feeder, it was at Packington, I was pushing the pellets in and they were getting stuck in the feeder. They were almost a bit too sticky, if you know what I'm saying. So one way around that, and it was Andy Finley who told me about it, soak your pellets as normal, whack them in the freezer, get them out, thaw them out, and they lose that tackiness. You can really press them into a pellet feeder and they open up quick because they lose that binding. So I was really, based with that in mind, I was worried that this would lose its binding potential, and I'm pleased to report it definitely didn't. And I'll just get a bit out. It's a bit pongy, you see in there. It's still got, it's a lovely texture. If anything, it's gone a bit softer, which isn't a bad thing at all. But I was worried about obviously the binding power of and the gluten being affected. But as you can see, lovely and smooth. Sorry, I was just doing this on my phone because I didn't want to get the camera out, and because I'm doing this on a Saturday morning, just waiting for the kids to wake up. As you can see, it's not lost any of its stringiness. It's not affected at all. It's lovely and smooth. It's lovely and soft. It's exactly how I would probably want it. It's really, really impressive, actually. It smells... At first, I actually thought it had a bit of a sour smell. Now, bearing in mind I used this yesterday, so it has been in my bag. I put it in a cool box, actually. You might have noticed, and if any of you follows me on Facebook, the last few posts I've put, I've got like a blue cool box that I have next to me. There's a reason for that. I don't have a bait fridge, so what I do, I use that cool box as like as my bait fridge, and I have like cool blocks on rotation in the freezer. Take them out, and I just find it keeps my bait in really good condition. So oftentimes, say I'm fishing on a Tuesday, on a match, I'm often filming then on the next day or the next day, and it can be actually keeping my bait is a good thing because I can use it on the next day's filming. So I do it with that cool box. So the bait was kept cool yesterday, and it smells a little bit stronger than it did yesterday, but it doesn't smell sour, which I think is really important. I was worried that when I got it out of the freezer it would have that sour smell, which I don't personally like. I know some people actually like the paste when it's mouldy and horrible, but I'm most confident when I can smell that fish meal smell, and I still can. It smells good to me. Now, as you can see, I am actually going to freeze it again because I've got loads left. That'll do for a filming session, no doubt about it. So, really happy with that. I think that's an experiment well done. But I guess the ultimate question would be, what would be my preference? Would I use the frozen stuff, or would I use fresh bait? What do I think? And in my humble opinion, fresh bait is always best. I know some people will argue against that, but I think when it comes to fish meal, I think as soon as you start to get it wet, it is starting to go off, and that definitely smells different to when it was fresh. So it could be a good thing. I've caught quite a lot of fish. I fully believe, like when I'm using hemp, I like to leave it in a bucket for a good few days to get all a bit slimy and horrible, and I catch loads of fish with that. A cheese paste, for example, when I go chubbing, I actually leave it in the back of the van or something. It's in there now, getting all smelly and horrible. So it might be a good thing. That actual sour smell, it might just be to the human nose a bad thing, and it might be a good thing for the carp. So I guess the only way to find out is to try it. First choice would always be fresh bait for me, but I'm definitely gonna freeze my leftovers. And like I say, when it comes to filming and featured shooting and all that, I can use that stuff that's in the freezer and not use up all the fresh bait. So yeah, more than happy with the results. Definitely be confident in using it, but I'd still prefer to use fresh paste on match day. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next video here on our YouTube channel.